Of South Korea. I chose South Korea because it's such a different country compared to other countries in the world. It also has a very long history, which is both as well very interesting. And based on today, it has made a lot of news headlines in newspaper because of the problem it has with North Korea. So yeah, that's why I chose it. Just go through the content quickly. We're going to start to tell the history of South Korea and how it basically went from going from being united with North Korea to becoming South Korea. Then we're going to go through the Canadian six cultural regulators, which is the nation, religion, race, gender, class, and civilization type. And finally, ended with interesting cultural elements such as education, language, food, music, family, and pop culture. So, let's start this history telling that between the 7th century until 1945, Korea was united. Like North Korea and South Korea didn't exist. It was one country. And the reason why it split was because two things. The first was the World War II, and also the Sino-Japanese War, which was between 1884 and 1895, which was a war between China and Japan. So during the 1880s, Korea was really against industrialization compared to China and Japan. And during this time, Korean 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 officers went to Japan to meet with Chinese diplomats who warned them about a future Russian invasion of Korea. But at the same time as well, they started creating contacts with the U.S. And at 1882, the Treaty of Peace was created between Korea and Japan, which was created so creates a strong connection between the two countries. And at this point, China wanted Korea to belong to China and the Republic of China, but that didn't sit well with the U.S. because they thought Korea should not be connected with China in any way. Going back to the first Sino-Japanese War was fought in Korea, and Japan won this war over China, and until 1910, Korea actually belonged to Japan in a certain way, and due to then World War II happened, and Japan lost this war, obviously, because they lost the war, which meant that the U.S. got to decide what to do with Korea. And the kind of split happened is called the 38th parallel, where the U.S. decided that the North would be run by Russia and the South would be run by U.S. And this made Korea very mad, or the Korean government people very mad, because they thought that after this long war ended, they would finally get their independence and unite again. And actually, in 1948, there was a meeting to reunify Korea, but they didn't lead nowhere. And later, the U.S. and the Russian put two people in charge of the different countries. The U.S. put Syngman Rhee, which was an anti-communist, because U.S. was all about anti-communism. They wanted democracy and all that. While Russia put Kim Il Sung in charge, a person who had fought in the Red Army and was a puppet of the Soviet. Going forward until 1950s, and at that point Kim Il Sung wanted the whole peninsula, basically the whole of Korea, for himself. And this was what led up to the 3-year-long Korean War. And of course, the U.S. supported South Korea, and they won the war, which didn't really lead to anything special, like land. The South didn't take over land from the North, but the major thing that happened was the demilitarized zone, which is the, you can say, wall, if you want to call it, a long wall stretching along the borders of South and North to prevent any further conflicts between the countries. And that's where we kind of are today, where people are trying to get away from North Korea and have to probably cross the demilitarized zones where there's major conflicts, where major shooting has happened between North and South. And that's where the conflict is still today. Now to the Kenyan 6 cultural legislators. Quick about the nation. South Korea is also known as the Republic of Korea. Its capital is Seoul. It has a landmass of 136,000 square kilometers. Its population is 51.82 million people. And the national flag, also known as Taeguki, has a certain meaning. As you can see at the bottom, the middle circle refers to harmony of Jing and Yang, with obviously the red showing in this picture positive and the blue is Jin, which is negative. Then the markers on the side refers to the four elements such as the sky, the water, the fire and earth. And then the white, as you can read, is light, refers to light, purity and peace, which is just the positive meaning of Korea, what do you want to achieve. Religion. The top major religions in Korea is Buddhism and Christianity, but most influential is Buddhism and Confucianism, which is an older based on the older based religious view. Race. South Korea belongs to the ethnicity of Asians, but are called Korean. Gender equality does exist in Korea, and at the same time it depends on religious beliefs, because Confucianism is if you believe in Confucianism, it's very traditional, where male should take care of the family and female should be home, cook, clean, take care of the children, which is not very gender equality, but yeah, it does exist, but depends on what religions you believe in. And if you look at the LGBT, homosexuality is legal in Korea, but same-sex marriage is not legal. Class, if you look at income class, it's the fifth most equal country in the world as of 2019. But since then, inequality has grown between the lower class, middle class, and high class. And if you look at democracy, it's the basic civil liberties and political liberties. Civilization. Korea has done very well. It's gone from being one of the poorest countries in the world to being a well-developed, high-income countries in just a few generations. That's also why it belongs to a group of developed and advanced high-income economy countries. Now to the interesting cultural elements. Education. South Korean children have 6 years of primary school, 3 years of middle school, and then 3 years of high school, which then is obviously a decision to go to college or university. They actually spend 12 to 16 hours a day at school, which is in a way ridiculous, but it probably shows as of 2021, they're ranked the 19th smartest country in the world and best school system. So I guess it works. And of course, it's not 12 to 16 hours schoolwork. It's breaks, food. I believe they also get it in a few hours of sleep as well, because you can't take 16 hours of school and have 8 hours, which is you're supposed to sleep during those hours. Language. Obviously they speak Korean, and comparing it to North Korea's Korean, it's the same language, but as the two countries have gone further and further apart, it doesn't sound the same, and the environment is very different between north and south, which means that the word they use is very different. Like North Koreans are more careful in which word they have to say because obviously live in a communist country. They can't say whatever they want to say because things could affect it. While South Korea is a democracy, they have the right to say whatever they want. So that means they can use their words more openly. Food. So three very like South Korean dishes are kimchi, which is just fermented cabbage with Korean flavors. We have tteokbokki, which is chewy rice cakes with with a fiery, funky chili paste, which is called gochujang. And bibimbap is white rice, vegetables, beef, a whole egg, and the same thing again, gochujang, which is the chili paste. Family in Korea is very important, always has been, and why is because it goes back to Confucianism and all Korean living. Loyalty and dedication is very important as well in North Korea, South Korea, and they see it as having a collective face. The family has a collective face. Like one person do will like represent the whole family. So if, for example, you're a child, family were to steal and get caught, that will reflect on all the family. They will all be looked at as thieves. But if someone did something good, like become a sergeant, a firefighter, police officer, then positive thing would be looked on not only on the child but on the whole family. So yeah, there has a collective face. And to end it off, music, pop culture, K-pop is very important, and very popular, and it's originated from South Korea. It's music influenced by hip hop, electronic dance, jazz, and rock. And I just took the reference to of the most popular groups. Above is BTS, a boy group, so it's very popular. I think the most popular Korean group, and then below is Blackpink, which is the very very like highly rated, which is also the most popular female Korean pop group. And that was my presentation. Thank you for listening.